It begins as every other day has begun. The sun rises over a sleeping world. In cities, the first stirrings of life can be heard. A coffee pot begins to brew in a quiet kitchen. A newspaper lands on a dew-covered lawn. Children are still dreaming in their beds, safe and warm. Across the globe, millions of people are starting their day. They have plans, they have hopes. They have no idea that the ordinary world they know is about to end. The routines of life feel so permanent, so unshakable. We build our lives on the assumption that tomorrow will be much like today. This assumption is the bedrock of our civilization, a quiet promise we make to ourselves without ever speaking it aloud. This morning feels no different. The sky is a gentle blue. The air is fresh with the promise of a new day. In Washington, D.C., government workers are making their way to their offices. They are thinking about meetings, reports, and deadlines. In California, families are waking up to the gentle Pacific sun. They are thinking about school, work, and what to have for dinner. It is a world of small concerns and simple pleasures, a world utterly unprepared for what is to come. The fragility of this peace is something we rarely consider. We trust in systems, in leaders, in the simple belief that no one would dare to break the unwritten rules that keep us all safe. But somewhere, in a place hidden from the world's view, a different kind of morning is dawning. It is a morning of cold calculation and grim determination. A finger hovers over a button. A decision has been made. A sequence has been initiated. This is the moment that changes everything. The world continues its peaceful routine, completely unaware. The gears of a terrible machine have begun to turn, silently and irrevocably. The quiet hum of daily life is about to be shattered by a noise louder than any ever heard on this planet. The world is sleepwalking towards a cliff, and the ground is already crumbling beneath its feet. The illusion of safety is a powerful thing. We live our lives surrounded by it. We believe in our defenses, in our treaties, in the logic of mutual destruction. We tell ourselves that no one would be foolish enough to start a nuclear war. It would be suicide. But what if logic fails? What if a leader acts not out of strategy, but out of desperation or delusion? The systems we have built to protect us are only as strong as the people who control them. And on this ordinary morning, that strength is about to be tested in the most extreme way imaginable. The final moments of peace are ticking away, unheard and unheeded by a world that has forgotten how to listen for danger. The first warning comes without a sound. It is a blip on a screen in a dark room deep underground. A satellite, hanging silently in the blackness of space, detects a sudden, intense bloom of heat. It is the signature of a missile launch. The location is North Korea. The computers analyze the trajectory. The destination is Washington, D.C. The time to impact is just 33 minutes. A calm voice reports the unthinkable. The president is alerted. The clock has started. This is not a drill. This is not a test. This is the moment that generations have feared since the atom was first split. The moment when the unthinkable becomes real. Panic is a luxury that cannot be afforded. Decisions must be made in seconds. The nation's defense systems spring into action. Ground-based interceptors are launched from Alaska and California. These are our shields, designed to hit a bullet with another bullet in the cold vacuum of space. But the sky is a very big place, and the target is moving at incredible speed. The interceptors streak towards their mark, a desperate race against time. The hopes of millions ride with them. On screens across the country, military commanders watch and wait. Their faces are grim. They know the odds. The system has never been tested against a real intercontinental ballistic missile. The attempt fails. The interceptors miss their target. The enemy missile continues its silent, deadly arc towards the capital. There is nothing left to stop it. The news is relayed to the president. The shield has been broken. Washington, D.C. is defenseless. A city of monuments, of history, of people, is now just a target. The time for action is running out. The city's residents go about their morning, unaware of the doom that plummets towards them from the heavens. They are caught in the final moments of an old world, with no knowledge of the fiery new one that is about to be born. The failure is not just technical, it is a failure of imagination, a failure to believe this day would ever truly come. The missile arrives. It detonates not on the ground, but in the air above the White House. The goal is to create a massive electromagnetic pulse, an EMP. This invisible wave of energy instantly destroys the electrical grid. It fries every electronic circuit that is not specially protected. Lights go out, cars stop dead, phones go silent. Communication with the outside world is severed. Washington is plunged into darkness and chaos. And then comes the fireball, hotter than the surface of the sun. It vaporizes everything at the center of the blast. The White House, the Capitol, the monuments, all gone in less than a second. A city is erased from the map. Before the world can even begin to process the horror in Washington, the second warning comes. Another blip on another screen. The North Korean regime, in a final act of madness, has not launched just one missile. They have launched two. The second missile is a different kind. It carries not one warhead but multiple. Its target is a place of immense strategic value. It is aimed at the Diablo Canyon power plant, a nuclear facility on the coast of California. This is not just an attack on a state. It is an attack designed to poison the land for generations. The news reaches the president aboard Air Force One, now a flying command center in a world that has lost its center. The West Coast now faces the same terror that just consumed the East. Once again, the interceptors are launched. Once again, they fail. The technology we placed our faith in proves to be fallible. It is a terrible lesson, learned at the most terrible cost. The missile closes in on its target. For the people of California, there is no warning. The communications blackout from the first strike means the news cannot be spread. They are living in the last moments of blissful ignorance. They are on their way to work, to school, enjoying the morning sun, while death itself arcs silently through the upper atmosphere, preparing to descend upon them with unimaginable force. The warhead strikes the nuclear power plant. The explosion is immense, a conventional blast designed to shatter the containment domes that house the nuclear reactors. The facility is torn apart, the reactors are breached, tons of lethal radioactive material are instantly vaporized and blasted high into the atmosphere. A deadly cloud begins to form, a toxic plume of fallout that will be carried by the winds. It will travel for hundreds, even thousands of miles. It will contaminate everything it touches, the soil, the water, the air. It is an act of environmental warfare on a scale never seen before. The attack on Diablo Canyon is more than an explosion. It is a curse upon the land itself. The immediate effect is catastrophic, but the long-term consequences are even more terrifying. The radioactive particles will settle on fields, poisoning crops. They will fall into rivers and reservoirs, poisoning the water supply. They will be inhaled by every living creature, causing sickness and death for years to come. The state of California, a symbol of dreams and prosperity, becomes a radioactive wasteland. The attack is a clear message. This is not a war of armies or governments. This is a war against life itself. The very elements that sustain us, earth, air, and water, are being turned into weapons against us. The president is now in the air, flying high above a country in chaos. The chain of command is broken. Washington is gone. California is contaminated. The nation is under attack. The president is faced with a decision that no human being should ever have to make. The system demands a response. The doctrine of nuclear deterrence is built on one simple, brutal principle. If you are attacked, you must strike back with overwhelming force. To hesitate is to show weakness. To show weakness is to invite further attack. The logic is as cold and as hard as the weapons themselves. The weight of the world rests on this one person's shoulders. The choice is not whether to respond, but how, and against whom. The attack came from North Korea, but the United States does not have a pre-planned nuclear response solely for North Korea. The war plans are designed for major adversaries, like Russia and China. To launch a full-scale retaliation, the president must choose from a list of options, each one more horrifying than the last. These are not surgical strikes. These are plans for annihilation. They involve launching hundreds of missiles, targeting military sites, command centers, and cities. The president has only minutes to decide. The pressure is unimaginable. The fate of millions hangs in the balance. The decision is made. The order is given. The president authorizes a retaliatory strike. The target is not just North Korea. To ensure the complete destruction of its leadership and weapons, the plan includes strikes on targets that are close to, or even inside, the borders of China and Russia. The missiles must fly over Russian territory to reach their targets. This is a terrifying gamble across the American heartland. That Russia will understand. The hope is that they will see it as a limited response to a specific threat. But in the fog of war, hope is a fragile thing. The order goes out. The launch keys are turned. The missiles begin to lift from their silos. Massive steel doors slide open. From submarines hidden in the depths of the ocean, hatches are opened. With a roar of fire on board Air Force One, the missiles begin their journey. They are the instruments of a terrible vengeance. Each one carries more destructive power than all the bombs dropped in World War II combined. They climb into the sky, symbols of a power that has finally been unleashed. The president can only watch the data streams, knowing that an irreversible process has begun. A line has been crossed. The world is now on a path from which there may be no return. The American missiles travel north, taking the shortest route to their targets in Asia. This route takes them over the North Pole. It takes them directly over the territory of Russia. Russian early warning systems light up. Their satellites and ground-based radars detect a massive launch. They see dozens, then hundreds of missiles coming over the horizon. From their perspective, it looks like a full-scale, unprovoked nuclear attack from the United States. They do not know about North Korea. They do not know about Washington. All they see is a sky full of incoming warheads. Their own computers begin a countdown. There is a line of communication between the leaders of the United States and Russia. It is the famous red phone, a direct link designed for exactly this kind of crisis. The American president tries to use it. A message must be sent. We are not attacking you. This is a limited strike against North Korea. Do not react. But the EMP blast that destroyed Washington has also crippled communication systems. The message does not get through. The line is dead. At the most critical moment in human history, the two most powerful nuclear nations on Earth cannot speak to each other. Fear and suspicion are left to fill the silence. The Russian leadership is in a bunker deep beneath Moscow. They are looking at the same kind of screens that their American counterparts were looking at just minutes before. They see a swarm of missiles heading their way. Their generals tell them they have only minutes to decide. If they wait for the first missile to land to confirm it is a real attack, it will be too late. Their own missiles will be destroyed in their silos. Their ability to retaliate will be gone. The doctrine of launch on warning is their policy. It means you do not wait. You fire your own weapons before the enemy's weapons can land. It is a policy born of pure fear. The Russian leader gives the order. It is the only logical choice given the information they have. They believe they are about to be annihilated. They launch their entire arsenal. Thousands of nuclear warheads are sent screaming into the sky. They are aimed at the United States. They are aimed at every NATO country in Europe. The United Kingdom, France, Germany, all are targeted. The sky over the Arctic, already filled with American missiles heading east, now fills with Russian missiles heading west. The nightmare scenario has come true. A misunderstanding, born of chaos and failed communication, has triggered a global nuclear exchange. The world's fate is sealed in 90 minutes. From the first launch in North Korea to the final Russian missile leaving its silo, it takes less time than a feature film. The escalation is rapid, automatic, and unstoppable. Once the Russian missiles are in the air, NATO's own systems detect the launch. The United Kingdom and France, the other nuclear powers in the alliance, are now forced to act. Their plans are also automatic. An attack on any NATO member is an attack on all. They launch their own submarine-based missiles, targeting Russia. The chain reaction is complete. The planet is now caught in a storm of fire. Cities become targets. New York, London, Paris, Berlin, Moscow. Millions of people who had nothing to do with the initial conflict are now in the crosshairs. They receive only a few minutes of warning, if any at all. Sirens wail. The sky flashes with a light brighter than 1,000 suns. Fireballs engulf entire metropolitan areas. The heat is so intense that it creates firestorms, massive winds of flame that suck all the oxygen out of the air. People in underground shelters are not safe. They are cooked alive. In a matter of minutes, hundreds of millions of people are dead. The great cities of human civilization become radioactive funeral pyres. The destruction is almost impossible to comprehend. The world that existed just 2 hours before is gone forever. The intricate web of trade, communication, and culture that connected us all is shredded. There are no more governments. There is no more electricity. There is no more internet. There are only survivors, huddled in the ruins, surrounded by the dead and the dying. But their ordeal is only just beginning. The immediate blasts are just the first wave of death. The second wave is already gathering high in the atmosphere, preparing to fall back to Earth and claim the rest. The explosions from thousands of nuclear warheads have thrown immense amounts of soot, smoke, and dust into the stratosphere. This dark cloud begins to spread, carried by the high-altitude winds. It wraps itself around the planet like a shroud. It blocks out the sun. On the ground, the sky turns a permanent dusky grey. The temperatures begin to plummet. Within days, the planet is plunged into a deep, artificial winter. Snow falls in the summertime. Crops freeze in the fields. The growing seasons are eliminated. This is the nuclear winter. It is a slow, cold death for a world that has already been burned. In the aftermath, there is only survival. But survival in this new world is a grim prospect. The nuclear winter lasts for years. The lack of sunlight kills most plant life. The food chain collapses. The billions of people who survived the initial blasts now face a new enemy: starvation. Famine sweeps across the globe. There is no one to organize relief. There is no relief to be organized. Humanity is reduced to its most primitive state, fighting for scraps in a frozen, toxic world. This is the Great Filter, a test that our civilization has failed. And then there is the radiation. The fallout from thousands of warheads has poisoned the entire planet. Every breath of air, every sip of water, every bite of food is contaminated. Sickness is rampant. Cancers, birth defects, and a host of other radiation-related illnesses plague the survivors. There are no doctors, no hospitals, no medicine. Life expectancy drops to that of the Stone Age. The very building blocks of life, our DNA, have been corrupted. The damage is not just to this generation, but to every generation that will follow, assuming any can. The Earth becomes a hostile environment for the very species that claimed to be its master. Looking back from this desolate future, the truth becomes painfully clear. The enemy was never North Korea. The enemy was never Russia or the United States. The enemy was the weapon itself. We built a machine designed to destroy the world, and we told ourselves we were smart enough to control it. We created a system of deterrence that required our leaders to be perfect, to be calm, to be infallible in the face of ultimate pressure. We failed to account for chaos, for accident, for fear. We built our own doom, polished it, and aimed it at our own hearts, all in the name of security. The lesson from this silent, frozen world is a stark one. It is a warning that echoes from the future. The only way to win the game of nuclear war is not to play. We must demand more from our leaders. We need not warriors but guardians, not those who are quick to threaten, but those who are wise enough to listen. We must dismantle these weapons before they dismantle us. Because on that ordinary morning, when the first missile was launched, it was not one nation attacking another. It was humanity declaring war on itself. And in that war there can be no victors, only ghosts wandering a cold, dead planet.